Hi all. So today we are going to just go how to import the Rhino to Photoshop model. So the visualization that we created in Rhino, and start doing it in transferring to Photoshop. Align it with the light, and also align it with the perspective. That's going to be critical. You already have a lot of skills built up from what you did on orthographic drawings, so the elevation sections and bringing those elements. It's very much the same techniques. However, now we have that extra dimension, which we need to be very careful. And everything depends actually on the background, on the scale of the background, on the lighting, on the mood of that setting. So that's going to be creative. That's going to be the creative part here, and how you align how to understand the perspective of your model and how to place it on that environment. That's going to be critical to what you did previously in your sketch drawings. So let's start with it.
This is a tutorial on where we integrate both the render and the background together. So we had these placeholders, and we are just going to work on this one and extract from what we did before on the Photoshopped images before that we had before done this file here. Basically, we can bring in that file into the background or vice versa. Be sure that the image size, so the image size is the image of each layer, but the canvas size, canvas size is the size of the whole kind of image. So if you have this image here is a smaller one, but the larger one, which is what occupies now, it's the larger size, it's 3500. So you can always, if you want to make that canvas bigger or smaller, you can go here and always adapt it to whatever the needs, or vice versa. So on integrating this image, what we need to do is looking at the sun direction where the shadows are going to be casted, and also create this kind of filter which is kind of blue and gloomy, and add that into our image, which is very bright and it's not integrated into the background at the moment. So that's basically what we'll do. So what we had before was these layers, and to make this easier, we'll generally create a group. We can group layers, and so like this you can play around and move them around easily without actually losing any kind of information. Again, be aware of the horizon line, and if your model is actually well integrated within the perspective element. So if this is the horizon line, these elements should be going towards the horizon, touching in the horizon line at the same level. So which is pretty much what we have here. So now we are going to go and look into integrating this image, and for that the first thing we can do is create either you can create another group in order to have a safe place, and then manipulate all that image subsequently to that. So in this case you go and duplicate group, and you create a second group. This first one disappears, making I hide it, and the second one I'm going to merge it. This basically creates an image which by itself, if you select it, becomes integrated into this, but you can treat it as an element that is just imported like a placeholder. So after that you can start adding the filters. In this case you can go select the layer, go to this color overlay, and in this case what I did was, in order to collect the color, I went around and created some blues that I thought, oh, this might be good, and you see that immediately your color overlay starts to become a bit gloomier, and I think I wanted this kind of blue and grayish dark tone to overlay. So you see immediately it becomes a bit more integrated. Still there's a long bit too much glare, I would say, or it's too lively, this image. So one thing that I can also play with around is the a bit of the opacity, not 100%, but get a little bit of within the 90s, which doesn't give you any transparency, but basically merges a bit the front colors or the brightest colors with the background, and becomes a smoother transition. Lastly, what we need to do is to create to see what are the elements that are in front, and in this case are all these sticks, and you can cut them off in order to create that three-dimensional aspect to the whole thing. And that's basically creating through, again, creating a mask through that group. So basically we'll select that layer, go with the lasso tool and start creating, taking out elements that you actually do not need. And again, I'm going to make it kind of fast, but also that conveys that those sticks that are coming out of this image. And again, there's the log of this older boat, and anything that comes in the front should be actually displayed in the front and creating that kind of an effect. Again, this should be done with a bit more accuracy than what I'm doing now, but for demonstration purposes I think this will be enough. So if you are selected in this layer, you can immediately delete. So you immediately start seeing the kind of transition, and I guess that's basically what we are looking for into the whole element. So yeah, so basically that's what's required to do the render, both from an interior point of view, but in this case it's an exterior point of view, and start having the element. One last element to create that you can actually create is a shadow. So you can see that the sun is coming from this side and it's being casted towards this area. So we can create it, even if it's a diffused one, we can create kind of a shadow that this kind of area might be a little bit shaded. And for that, what I'll do is just basically duplicate this layer, and so basically now I have two, and one of them, the second one that I just realized, I'm going to use it and deform it in order to create that that shadow. So basically what you create a distortion, and you can actually fold this down into the floor. You turn on the original one if you need to, and we'll see how it impacts. Let me turn on this one. So basically what we need to do is allow this reflection to be kind of aligned with that element. So distort, and this obviously can become far more accurate, and so goes in a way, goes to the background. And because you don't need, it's not a reflection, this could be water. If that's the case, this is how would it could be reflected, and apply another filter to it and make it blur. But in this case, what we can do, you apply the transformation, and then on this area, with the with the selection tool or the magic wand, again, be careful. Now I'm selecting, you see the outside, so I'm selected the exterior part. So I'm going to select inverse. So now I'm zooming in here. I select that and I'll just paint it inside of that area. So, and you can use the brush, the size, and the opacity 100 or a bit, yeah, and maybe a little bit darker, and that will definitely start creating these elements. Again, what you need to do, so after you finish this, basically you have all the same elements and you turn on the background. It's just really not perceivable and gives you a more realistic effect on that area, and you can actually have that shadow, three-dimensional space, and better integration. Again, this is not an ideal example, but it's just a workflow on bringing the foreground and the background together. All right. Thank you.